Welcome to Teaching Brewed. Today we're going to talk about something that it seems like everybody's doing, and yet I wonder how easy it is for the specialist teachers to do it, and whether or not they should actually be doing it at all.
And that's a good question. And what we're talking about here is coding. Coding is a very trendy buzzword these days, has been for a few years now. And it's the idea of prepping kids for the real world is kind of where it stems from, computer science and how computers are coded. But it became much more than that for the past few years. So it's always talked about in the context of math and science or teaching coding in elementary classrooms. But what you don't hear talk about is like visual arts or music
Or PE.
So we're here to provide some insight into how that could look. Nothing we're about to say here is mind-blowingly different. It's just ideas that we've heard and been presented with, and ways that we think coding could be incorporated into those specialist areas.
Or not.
Depending on how it goes. Some of the stuff maybe not worth the effort involved.
So where do you want to start then?
Well, visual arts can be one of the more easier ones to work it in. And from my experiences with the simple use of a program called Turtle Art.
Thank you very much. I knew you were going to say Turtle Art.
Turtle Art
is like the go-to.
Yeah, because it's beautiful for art. If you can code the turtle in 100 different ways to create a whole lot of different art, and it's real easy. And anything from like grade 2 can get their head around what it is. You just have to teach the basic coding concepts and help kids know what certain words mean. Like, what does a right angle look like? What is turning 90 degrees like? That sort of thing. So that's kind of how it works, right? But it allows code to be written where colors can happen and you can draw designs with it. I mean, one of the students in a class at my school recently, the students created their own names in multiple colors. We're using Turtle Art for fun.
Interesting.
So it can be used in a million different ways. If you're teaching geometric shapes with visual art, well, Turtle Art to the rescue. You can program the turtles to create those geometric shapes in a variety of patterns.
And within music, well, coding is a language.
Yes.
We have all agreed that music is a language. Western music notation, so I'm not going to get into any of the Asian notations, which are different, but Western musical notation tends to mirror computer code. So computer code, it's a series of instructions, right? Well, music notation is a series of instructions. How long you play a pitch for, how high or how low, how loud or how soft. You're basically just teaching the same thing using a different language.
And you can also, within the context of coding, you can actually program sensors to output certain sounds in certain ways. So if you code a program to output sounds for the right sensor, you can create music.
So I haven't actually checked into this myself, but I hear that Google's CS First has a whole unit on music and sound coding.
Yeah, and I believe you're right about that. Now, I wouldn't be the first one to want to dive into exactly how they do it or how it's done, but I know that they do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a way to explore that subject area in the context of music. There's also a really cool company out there called Sam Labs, and they create kind of Bluetooth sensor-based coding, so it's very visual. It's very, very easy for lower kids to get their head around. But they also have sensors on them and sound-based sensors that allow output or input of sounds and allows transmission of sounds between objects. So it's kind of cool. So Sam Labs is a fun one. They're mostly motor-based. They do more so electrical engineering, but they do have the ability for like sound detection and light detection.
Interesting.
And we also created my class created some art using the Sam Labs kits recently, going back to our visual arts thing, where we created robots that were programmed to kind of move in a certain way, and then we attached paintbrushes to them.
Oh.
we let the robots dance around this paper in a code that we had written to create visual art, to create painting.
There you go. There's also something out there, going with the robots, that you can code a robot to dance to a particular piece.
Yeah. You could also code the robot to like hit certain sections of a xylophone or a keyboard within a certain pattern to create a piece of music. So there's a lot of different ways you could do that. It would be coding something to create the music for you, but it's still building in that language of coding in the mix of the visual arts.
So
and the
visual art seems to be a natural one, assuming you've got the time.
Yep.
Music, you know, a little bit there. But what about something like phys ed? When the kids are supposed to be like out and running around.
I mean, PE is slightly more challenging. Based on, I admittedly found more limited research on that one. Mm-hmm. I did find that using things like spheros, which are these little rolling balls you can code,
yep,
to run speed tests on them and getting the kids to run with them, or running games with the Sphero so that they run a code. Kids have to play a game with them. Okay. And thus teaching blending physics in with it, blending the idea of velocity and potential and kinetic energy in with the Sphero when it's coding, and getting the kids moving with the Sphero would be an idea. That's been one of the bigger ideas I've heard, but I'll admit I've not seen as much on PE as I would like.
And I gotta say, as a music teacher who has very limited time as it is, I still feel like it was one of those things when I first started hearing about coding, I was the one going, okay, how do I apply this in music? I want to be able to apply this in music. Where can I go to get resources for music? And nobody could really help me out with that. And over the years, a few people have developed a few things. So there is a bit of stuff out there, but there still isn't that much. No. And in regards, like when you look at what there is and what the point of those lessons are, it's still not actually a music lesson per se. It's more like a lesson that happens to have some music embedded in it.
Yeah, and that makes sense, because I mean, when you think of what coding really is, it's a math, literacy, science-driven concept.
Yeah.
In terms of literacy, it's driven on the idea of step-by-step follow instructions, how-tos. It's based on information in and information out. And its connections to math and science are obvious.
Yeah.
But you're right.
There's a lot about problem solving in there.
Yeah.
And, you know, teaching them how to break things down into smaller pieces. You want the robot to get through the maze, or the Sphero to get through the maze, you have to break down your code into smaller chunks to teach it which way to turn and when to go and stuff like that. But we actually already do that in music, just not using robots. That's how we teach children to practice a piece of music and how to break it down into smaller pieces. So you're not playing the entire page. You're only playing a couple bars at a time.
So it might just be more so, as opposed to explicitly teaching it, it may just create the relationships with coding and kind of show the relationships so that they can use it in a more multidisciplinary approach.
Exactly. So it's important to know, I would say it's important for a specialist teacher to know a bit about coding and how to code and things like that. But I personally would now, a month ago I didn't have this opinion, but now I actually have the opinion that no, we shouldn't be actually coding in our classes. We should just have the knowledge so that we can show how that knowledge transfers back and forth.
I don't know if I'd go that far in the absolutism of that statement, but I think it's just an area that hasn't been explored as much as it should. The idea of coding in an elementary classroom, in computer science classrooms and math class, that's heaps of resources out there about it. But I think that if you really want to look into it in the specialist classroom, I think that area, before we go absolutely saying it's no, it needs to be developed more to see if it actually genuinely is a no.
Oh yeah, like in terms of where it stands today, and I admit that part of my opinion right now is coming from the fact that I am writing report cards right now, and I am looking at how much I still need to do before I can finish writing the report card, and looking at the amount of lessons that are left and going, oh, that's not going to fit very well. And so the thought of adding in another thing, especially when it doesn't relate exactly precisely back to a report card standard, it's one of those things that it becomes something that would be nice to do,
but hard to justify actually doing the time for it. Yeah,
exactly.
And especially with specialist teachers having, like, where generalists see their kids 4 and 5 hours a day, specialists often don't have that freedom.
Yeah.
Different schools, different cycles. I know that in many schools, the art teacher often sees them once in a 6-day cycle.
Yeah.
PE is 3 times, but that's just enough time to cover the outcomes they need to cover. So it changes from school to school. And I think that with more limited time frames means more of a crunch to get done, needs to get done, which means things like coding, which would be awesome to try and work in, may not be as easily done.
So I would be, if you're a person who really wants to try out coding in your classroom, I would do it in that week or 2 lull just after you finish the report card, but before you're done the classes.
Absolutely. That would be your time to kind of try things that might be new or dynamic, and that can be maybe just being really a time for real hardcore innovation.
Yeah.
So those are our recommendations for this one. So we've got some big ones for visual arts, but sorry, PE, so far we're a bit out of luck on this one.
Yeah, just no love there yet.
No, we love you. We do, very much so. Trust me on this one. You are our saving grace many days. However, in so many ways. But apologies that we don't have that much for coding for you quite yet.
However, if you are a PE teacher and you know some coding stuff and you incorporate it into your lessons, then please give us an email, put it in the reviews. What do you do? So we can share it out to everybody else.
Absolutely. Would love to.
And while you're at it, subscribe, leave a comment,
click on the link.
Pass it on to your teacher friends.
Yeah, whether that's through Omni Studio or whether that's through iTunes. All right, folks, enjoy your day.
Bye.
Bye.